morning, everyone. Let me first introduce myself. I'm Dr. Selougui Soumia, lecturer and researcher at the Department of English, University of Bouaghi, Algeria. As the title shows, my research is about investigating the representation of English varieties in Algerian EFL textbooks. So, let's first start with the context of my research. The first point is that English language is perceived as an important foreign language to teach by the Ministry of Education. I mean Algerian Ministry of Education. It is regarded as a second foreign language in Algeria. It is taught as a compulsory subject in public schools. Algerian EFL textbooks are issued by the Ministry of National Education. These textbooks are used in public schools across the whole country, wherever EFL is taught. These textbooks are mandatory and the only textbook sources permitted. Teachers of English took part in my research as well. So, Algerian EFL teachers must be trained before start teaching. The training focuses more on the quality of teaching instead of quantity of teachers. Now, motivations of the research or the main rationale behind conducting such research. Because of globalization, the field of teaching English as a second or foreign language faces new challenges. Moreover, among these challenges, the emergence of World English's paradigm, where Cashro 1985 strongly advocated for incorporating the diversity of English in ELT contexts. The main aim behind doing so is to enable Algerian learners to understand and communicate with speakers from different geographical and linguistic contexts. It is also important to raise EFL learners' awareness of variations in English language. However, such variations seem to a large extent limited in some of the Algerian EFL materials. Thus, the current research should consider investigating the inclusion of English varieties in Algerian EFL contexts. Now, choose from the literature. Which English variety to teach to non-native learners, and questioning the acceptability of English variation is a matter of question in the literature. The second point in my literature is that English language is not a unique language, but it is made of many varieties, such as British English, American English, and so on and so forth. It is also important to think about knowledge of cultural plurality. This doesn't only include linguistic skills to understand various kinds of accents and to be understood by others, but it also includes knowledge of other cultures. Then, I have defined some concepts like English as a lingua franca and world Englishes. So English as a lingua franca has emerged as a way of referring to communication in English between speakers with different first languages. For world Englishes, such a concept has been widely used to refer to the localized forms of English found throughout the world, particularly in the Caribbean, parts of Africa, and many societies in Asia. At last, no previous studies, to my knowledge, about the representation of English variation in EFL textbooks have been conducted in Algeria. My research questions are as the following. First, to what extent are English varieties adequately represented in the state-sponsored English language textbooks? Second, what are English language teachers' views about the English variety or varieties that should be implemented in the Algerian EFL textbooks? For For research methodology, this study drew upon an interpretive qualitative approach, document analysis, and interviews. So the main methods being used in this research is document analysis and semi-structured interviews. For data analysis, content analysis and thematic analysis have been used in order to analyze the data emerged from document analysis and from semi-structured interviews. Content analysis of EFL textbooks is based on counting the frequency and the accuracy of different English varieties in these textbooks. However, for interviews, teachers were asked about their views regarding the inclusion of English varieties. They were also asked about the appropriate model they think is appropriate to include in EFL textbooks. As far as sampling strategies is concerned, the mix of purposive and convenient sampling design has been chosen for this research. 10 male and female teachers in intermediate and secondary school in Bouaghi city took part in my research, in addition to 2 Algerian textbooks of English used in intermediate and secondary schools. These are entitled as My Book of English and Getting Through. A total, or as I have mentioned previously, a total of texts and tasks from both textbooks were categorized and analyzed based on Kasher's 3 centric circles: the inner circle, the outer circle, and the expanding circle. For the initial findings from data analysis, the preliminary research findings I obtained from content analysis first. The linguistic variation represented in both textbooks is to some extent limited. American and British were the outstanding varieties reflected in these textbooks. As a result, standardized varieties seem to carry higher value by Algerian textbook writers and designers. Moreover, despite the fact that the American and British British Englishes or varieties were the outstanding varieties reflected in these textbooks, there were few instances from other non-standardized varieties originating from parts of the world other than the UK or the USA. Some outer circle varieties were also represented as well in my Book of English and Getting Through, but these are some or a few instances from these varieties. From interviews, EFL teachers were not satisfied with the inclusion of the British and American Englishes only, and they preferred a variety of Englishes to be incorporated as well as an appropriate model to teach about. The majority of participants claim that they teach only about standard British and standard American varieties. In this respect, one of the participants quoted that it would be preferable if we have a mixture of English varieties such as British, American, Indian, and Singaporean in one textbook. This means that it is important to expose Algerian learners to a variety of Englishes instead of limiting them to standardized British and American varieties only. One more important finding is that the participants also noted the inferiority of some Englishes compared with British English and American English. They noticed that they are asked only to teach about these 2 varieties or these 2 standardized varieties. For example, one of the participants stated that The highest status is always given to British English and American English other than Malaysian English. One more important finding I obtained from my initial findings is that several participants were not even aware of the existence of some other non-native varieties of English. They know some, but they don't know about others. So this is considered, or this can be seen as a problem that should be investigated, or that further research should be about, or should investigate. Now we move to research recommendations and implementations. So, on a basis of these preliminary findings, a variety of Englishes is recommended to be incorporated in the Algerian EFL textbooks, since English now functions as an international means of communication. That is to say, English functions as an international means of communication. Hence, our Algerian EFL learners should be aware of a variety of these Englishes so that they communicate successfully with others. More exposure to English varieties is needed to enable Algerian learners communicate in several situations and to communicate with different people from different linguistic and cultural backgrounds. It is high time to develop Algerian EFL teachers' awareness of the non-native varieties of English as well. So it is so important to raise their awareness, or to raise EFL teachers' awareness of having or of existence several varieties of English language. English language is not only limited to standardized or to standard English, British and American Englishes, but there are other varieties all around the world. The mixture of standard native and non-native English varieties was the chosen model when teaching English to Algerian learners according to Algerian EFL teachers' viewpoints. So Algerian EFL teachers think that a mixture of standard and non-standard English varieties is highly recommended. EFL teachers should also receive mandatory training on teaching different English varieties in the classroom. It is not enough just to know about these varieties, but it is also important or necessary to train them on how to teach these varieties. At last, policymakers like textbook writers, curriculum designers should work hard on designing teaching materials that help EFL learners or learners of English learn about native and non-native English varieties. At the end, so this is a list of references, and at last I would like to thank you so much for your attention. In case of any questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you so much for your attention.